You actually dared to show up after all the humiliation we've given your species? The words echoed across the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, sharp as a blade. Alien delegates of all forms, shimmering crystalline beings, towering reptilians, and multi-limbed insectoids leaned forward, their expressions dripping with scorn. Kael Rynn, humanity's last known emissary, remained motionless in the center of the room. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, mocked, and written off as extinct. Now, standing in front of the galaxy's most powerful governing body, he felt the weight of centuries of planning and patience resting on his shoulders. The Council's laughter was orchestrated, cruel, and cutting. Hollow projections depicted humans as weak, foolish, and inconsequential. Images of past failures, public humiliations, and so-called human arrogance were displayed for all delegates to witness. Even the normally stoic reptilians hissed derisively. Public humiliation had never been more precise. "You withdrew from the peace talks," hissed the crystalline counselor, shards vibrating with contempt. "You claim diplomacy, yet you refuse dialogue. Do you think your species is clever? Pathetic creatures playing at importance." Kael's hand brushed against a hidden console beneath his robe, imperceptible to any observer. Beyond the council chamber, the human fleet, hidden for centuries in the void, shifted slightly, ready to act at a moment's notice. Every warship, drone, and surveillance array had been waiting for this precise moment. "Do you feel powerful now?" Kael's voice, calm and deliberate, carried through the Council's network. "Do you think mockery can erase the consequences of your arrogance?" The Council President, a massive insectoid with 6 spindly limbs, banged his claws on the podium. "Bold words for a species we deemed extinct!" Kael's lips curled in a faint, controlled smile. "Extinct, perhaps in your records, but in reality we have waited, we have observed, we have prepared, and now your laughter is nothing more than the prelude to regret." The delegates shifted nervously as subtle anomalies began to appear in their systems. Communications faltered, surveillance flickered, and monitoring arrays briefly went dark. Kael's hidden fleet had already begun maneuvers invisible to the Council's sensors. The humans were no longer theoretical. They were present, precise, and poised. "You believe yourself safe, human," hissed a reptilian delegate, claws scraping against the chamber floor. "You and your species are insignificant." Kael's gaze swept the room, noting every twitch, flinch, and faltering gesture. "Insignificant? No. You assumed our weakness. You humiliated us publicly. You believed our withdrawal from your peace talks meant submission. Every misjudgment you made, every insult, every command to erase humanity, it has all led to this moment." Outside the chamber, drones slipped through patrol grids, reconnaissance vessels aligned in strategic formation, and warships phased out of stealth, ready to strike. Kael's command had already set centuries of preparation into motion. The Council's laughter faltered. Even the boldest of delegates sensed the shift, though none could yet comprehend the scale of what was coming. Kael allowed the silence to linger, letting the weight of human patience and strategy press upon the chamber. "They will remember this day," Kael whispered, "not for your power, but for your arrogance." Beyond the imposing walls of the Galactic Council, space stretched cold and silent. Hidden in the void, humanity's fleet stirred. Centuries of secrecy, patience, and meticulous planning had culminated in this precise moment. Sleek warships, surveillance drones, and stealth vessels hovered in formations designed for maximum tactical advantage, undetectable to the Council's most advanced sensors. Kael Rynn's fingers brushed lightly over the console beneath his robe, sending subtle signals to the fleet hidden in the depths of space. Every human vessel, every autonomous drone responded instantaneously. Cloaking arrays phased out in layers, revealing a force that the galaxy had believed extinct. Inside the council chamber, alien delegates continued their petty debates, oblivious to the invisible threat. "Even if they exist, a single human cannot oppose the council," whispered a crystalline representative, his shards vibrating nervously. Kael's calm voice sliced through the communication network. "You assumed our extinction meant submission. You assumed our withdrawal from your peace talks reflected weakness. You assumed humanity could be dismissed. Every one of those assumptions was wrong." A ripple of unease spread through the chamber as minor anomalies began to appear on monitoring consoles. Holographic feeds flickered, surveillance satellites temporarily disappeared, and communications between key fleets faltered. Each disruption was invisible, silent, and precisely timed. The humans were ghosts, striking without warning. The council president's 6 limbs twitched with anger. "Explain this interference. How is a single human causing such disruption?" Kael's smile was subtle but cutting. "It is not a single human. It is centuries of preparation. It is observation, strategy, and patience. It is the consequence of arrogance, and it is only the beginning." Outside, drones infiltrated Council warships, subtly rerouting power, disabling sensors, and misdirecting fleets. Automated decoys led patrols astray, while human stealth ships aligned into positions capable of dominating multiple sectors simultaneously. Every movement had been predicted, every contingency accounted for. Inside, the Council's confidence faltered. Delegates who once sneered and laughed now whispered frantically, realizing the scope of their miscalculation. Even the most composed alien leaders could not hide their uncertainty. The humans, thought extinct, were active, precise, and in control. Kael allowed a brief pause for the Council to absorb the moment. "You laughed at our withdrawal. You mocked our disappearance. You believed your dominance unchallenged. And now," he said, voice calm yet carrying lethal authority, "you will understand the consequences of underestimating humanity." The first wave of human drones moved silently to critical alien council installations, disabling shields, jamming communications, and rerouting vital systems. Alien fleets scrambled to respond, but each action had already been anticipated. Kael's patience and planning turned the Council's own arrogance against them. Delegates glanced at one another, realization dawning like a cold shadow. We underestimated them," hissed a crystalline counselor. All this planning, and we never saw it coming." Kael's gaze swept the chamber, calculating and precise. "Your arrogance has created your vulnerability. Your laughter has paved the way for your downfall. Humanity is patient, observant, and relentless. This is what happens when a species you tried to erase proves it cannot be ignored." Outside, the hidden fleet continued its silent maneuvers, poised to strike the next moment. The Council's era of arrogance was ending, and the humans were in command. The once proud chamber of the Galactic Council was now heavy with tension. The laughter and scorn of the delegates had vanished, replaced by whispers, worried glances, and the sharp crackle of malfunctioning systems. Kael Rynn stood at the center, calm and measured. the embodiment of human patience and strategy. "Your withdrawal from our peace talks was a surrender," Kael said, his voice echoing through the chamber's communication network. "You assumed absence meant weakness, and now you realize your mistake." The council president's 6 limbs flexed nervously, struggling to maintain authority. "Impossible! A single human! Your species cannot have prepared for this." Kael's lips curved into a faint, controlled smile. "Not a single human. Humanity. Every observation, every calculation, every century of survival in the shadows has led to this moment." Outside the chamber, the human fleet moved like ghosts. Warships phased out of stealth, drones infiltrated command systems, and decoy signals manipulated council fleets into chaos. Every maneuver had been anticipated, every response neutralized. The council's technological superiority, once absolute, had become irrelevant against centuries of planning and strategy. Inside, the alien delegates began to panic. "We misunderstood them. We miscalculated. They are everywhere," hissed a crystalline counselor, shards vibrating with fear. The president's voice trembled as he attempted to rally control. "All fleets respond. All systems online. Contain them." Kael's eyes swept the chamber, noting every twitch, every hesitation, every faltering attempt to assert authority. "Contain us," he asked, voice low but cutting. "You cannot even contain yourselves. Your arrogance created the opening. Your hubris blinded you. Humanity does not beg, does not falter, and certainly does not forget." The first wave of drones infiltrated key council installations, subtly disabling defense systems and rerouting control nodes. Warships scrambled to intercept, only to find themselves guided into positions already calculated to fail. The council had thought themselves untouchable, but every step of their strategy had been anticipated, and every weakness exploited. Kael allowed a moment for the counselors to feel the weight of history pressing upon them. "You mocked our species. You humiliated us publicly. You assumed your dominance unchallenged. And now," his voice dropped slightly, sharp as a blade, "you see what patience, intelligence, and preparation can achieve." Alien fleets hesitated as communications faltered. Sensors blinked offline. Key strategic positions were lost without a single human casualty. Panic spread faster than any coordinated defense, and the Council's once solid confidence crumbled like sand. A veteran reptilian delegate hissed, claws scraping against the chamber floor. This cannot be! How did they—" Kael's gaze met theirs unwavering. "How did we survive? By observing, by enduring, and by waiting. How did we dominate? By turning your arrogance into our weapon. You believed humans irrelevant, unworthy, extinct. That was your greatest mistake." The council president's voice rose in desperation, but even his words carried the hollow sound of inevitability. Outside, human drones began to take control of outer defense satellites, and warships aligned to strategically dominate every sector in reach. Kael allowed a faint, controlled smile. The Council had underestimated humanity, and that underestimation was now their undoing. The galaxy was about to witness the true power of a species that had survived, hidden, and perfected the art of patience. The chamber of the Galactic Council no longer radiated authority or control. Alien delegates shuffled nervously, their confidence shattered, their composure eroding with each passing second. Kael Rynn's calm demeanor was a sharp contrast to the chaos surrounding him. Every flicker of uncertainty in the counselor's eyes was a silent acknowledgement of humanity's growing dominance. "You believed your peace talks could bind us," Kael said, voice echoing with quiet authority. "You assumed diplomacy was enough to control a species you thought extinct. That was your first mistake. Your second was underestimating our patience. Your third was assuming we would beg." Outside the chamber, humanity's fleet moved like a phantom force. Warships phased in and out of stealth. Drones infiltrated critical systems, and decoy signals misled Council fleets. Every action was calculated, every response anticipated. The humans were everywhere, yet nowhere. Invisible, yet omnipresent, turning the Council's own technology against them. Delegates attempted to rally their defenses. "Divert all fleets, isolate the human vessels, protect the key sectors," shouted a crystalline counselor. But their commands were ineffective. Communications faltered, relays blinked offline, and the Council's carefully orchestrated strategies crumbled under the precision of human sabotage. Kael's gaze swept the room. "You mocked our species, humiliated us, and dismissed our existence. And now every system you relied upon to assert your dominance bends to human strategy. Every flaw you ignored, every arrogance you displayed has been exploited." The Council President's 6 limbs flexed nervously. "This cannot continue. We are the Council. We are supreme. How can they—" Kael's calm smile cut through the tension. "Supremacy is earned through strategy, foresight, and adaptation, not arrogance. Your fleets falter, your defenses crumble, and your systems fail because you underestimated us. You assumed the galaxy was yours to control. You were wrong." Outside, drones disabled shield generators, rerouted power grids, and infiltrated warships. Human warships occupied key strategic positions, controlling orbital defenses and cutting off reinforcements. Every move had been predicted and countered before it could be executed. The Council had no idea how deeply their control had already been compromised.
Inside the chamber, panic rippled through the delegates. "We underestimated them," hissed a veteran reptilian delegate. "Every calculation, every plan, all gone to waste." Kael allowed a moment of silence, letting the weight of history and human preparation press upon them. "You thought withdrawal from your peace talks was a weakness. You thought mocking us was harmless. And now you see what centuries of patience, observation, and planning can achieve." The first active strikes began. Human drones cut through critical communications networks, rendering outer fleets blind and isolated. Key installations blinked offline, and Council-controlled satellites flickered under subtle human manipulation. The balance of power had shifted irreversibly. The Council President's claws banged against the podium, a futile attempt at asserting control. Fear had replaced confidence, and hesitation replaced authority. Humanity's precision and patience were now the dominant force in the galaxy, and every alien delegate could sense the inevitable. Kael's eyes narrowed slightly, calm but intense. "History will remember this day not for your arrogance, but for the species you tried to erase. Humanity survives. Humanity prevails. Humanity dominates." Outside, the human fleet continued its silent, inexorable advance. The Council's era of absolute control was ending, and Kael Rynn, the last human, was the harbinger of that change.
The chamber of the Galactic Council had become a nest of tension and fear. The once commanding delegates now trembled under the weight of unseen human influence. Kael Rynn, the last known human, stood at the center, calm, deliberate, and exuding the quiet authority of a species that had waited centuries for this exact moment. "You believed that withdrawing from your peace talks was a sign of weakness," Kael said, voice echoing through the Council's network. "You assumed that our disappearance would be permanent. You mocked our extinction. And now you understand your grave mistake." The Council President's 6 limbs flexed nervously. "Your species cannot possibly have prepared for this." Kael's eyes narrowed, calm yet commanding. "It is not about a single species. It is about foresight, patience, and centuries of observation. Your arrogance created the opening. Every insult, every dismissal, every act of humiliation has led to this moment." Outside, the human fleet moved with surgical precision. Drones infiltrated Council warships, subtly rerouting control systems and disabling shields. Stealth vessels positioned themselves to dominate orbital sectors. Decoys misled alien reinforcements into traps carefully planned decades in advance. Every response the Council attempted had already been predicted, every weak point exploited. Delegates tried to regain control, shouting orders and attempting emergency communications. "All fleets respond! Protect our sectors! Contain the human threat!" But their commands faltered. Systems blinked offline. Communications were intercepted or rerouted. Key installations fell under subtle human control without a single shot fired. The Council had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price.
Kael's voice cut through the chaos, calm and precise. "You assumed dominance was guaranteed by your technology, your fleets, your arrogance. You were wrong. Humanity endures, adapts, and strikes with precision. Every flaw you ignored, every mistake you made has been exploited. And now your council teeters on the edge of collapse." The president slammed his claws against the podium, but even this display of authority rang hollow. Delegates whispered in fear, glancing at each other as realization settled in. The humans had outmaneuvered them completely. Outside, drones disabled satellites, neutralized defense grids, and seized control of communication hubs. Warships were forced into positions where they could neither retreat nor fight effectively. Kael's fleet moved as one, a silent, unstoppable force. "You underestimated us," Kael continued, letting the words sink in. "You mocked our withdrawal from diplomacy, assumed we were insignificant, and laughed at our supposed weakness. Now you face the consequence. A species you thought gone, orchestrating your downfall with intelligence, strategy, and patience." The Council President's voice cracked. We miscalculated everything." Kael allowed a slight, controlled smile. The Council's control was crumbling. Humanity, once mocked, now dictated the flow of power. Every insult, every act of public humiliation, every attempt at erasure had been catalogued and turned into advantage. The first stages of domination were complete. Human drones and stealth ships had taken control of key systems across Council space, leaving the delegates isolated and powerless. The Council's reign was ending. Kael's gaze swept the chamber, steady and resolute. "Your arrogance has fallen. Humanity rises."
The once mighty Galactic Council had become a chamber of panic and disbelief,
Alien delegates who had once laughed at humans and dismissed their withdrawal from peace talks as weakness now trembled under the weight of an invisible but absolute force. Kael Rynn, humanity's last known emissary, stood calmly at the center, the culmination of centuries of patience, preparation, and strategy. "You mocked us," Kael began, voice low but resonant. "Humiliated us, and assumed we would beg. You believed our withdrawal was a surrender. You were wrong." The council president's 6 limbs twitched uncontrollably. "Impossible! A single human! Your species cannot!" Kael's calm smile was deadly. "It is not about a single human. It is about a species that endures, observes, and strikes with precision. Every insult, every humiliation, every act of arrogance has been catalogued and turned to advantage." Outside the chamber, the human fleet revealed itself fully. Sleek warships and drones phased out of stealth, occupying strategic positions throughout Council space. Key installations fell under human control without a single fatal engagement. Decoy fleets misled reinforcements, forcing them into sectors where their advantage vanished. Every alien system, once thought untouchable, now answered to humanity's careful design. Inside, delegates whispered frantically, fear and disbelief etched on every face. Even the president's attempts to rally control were meaningless. Communications were hijacked, systems were failing, and fleets were isolated. Humanity had turned the Council's arrogance into a weapon against them. Kael's eyes scanned the chamber. "Your fleets, your technology, your pride, none can withstand preparation, patience, and intelligence. You assumed your dominance was absolute, but it was never guaranteed. Today, you see why underestimating humanity is a fatal error." Outside, human drones disabled Council satellites, cut off defense grids, and commandeered critical installations. Warships aligned to dominate orbital sectors, ensuring that no alien force could intervene. Every move had been predicted, every weakness exploited. The Council's control over the galaxy was unraveling. The president banged his claws on the podium in frustration, but even this display of authority rang hollow. "We miscalculated, underestimated, all of it." Kael's calm gaze met theirs. "Your miscalculations have written your downfall. Humanity survives, thrives, and dominates not through blind force, but through strategy, intelligence, and patience. We are the species you thought extinct. We are the reckoning you never saw coming." Delegates could only watch as the final stages of human domination unfolded. Drones controlled communication hubs, stealth ships maintained orbital supremacy, and alien fleets were systematically neutralized. The Council's arrogance had created its undoing, and humanity had executed its centuries-long plan flawlessly. Kael's voice softened, almost reverent. "History will remember this day, not for your power, but for your arrogance. Humanity endures, humanity prevails, humanity dominates." The chamber fell silent. The delegates knew that their era of control was over. Humanity, once mocked and humiliated, had risen from obscurity to command the very systems that had once scorned them. The galaxy had witnessed the resurgence of a species that would never again be underestimated. And at the center of it all, Kael Rynn stood, a symbol of patience, intelligence, and human supremacy, ensuring that the lesson would never be forgotten.